Hey guys, I'm going to be reading the first chapter of The Society. Don't judge because I've never done this before. Um, I really don't know what I'm doing, but hopefully it works. And you guys let me know if I'm talking too fast or you can't understand what the heck I'm saying because I know I'm from the South, but I can still talk fast. So let's pull this up. And again, if you're not able to listen right now or you don't want to listen right now, it should save to the timeline of the page. And that way you can, listen to it later and still participate in the party. But I'm going to go ahead and read it. So let me find it so I can share it in the group and you guys will be able to see it. And okay. Share. Can I share? There we go. Alright, it's been shared in the group. I'm going to give people a couple minutes to find it because Jenny is a posting maniac. She's doing awesome. But you guys got lots of stuff to do. We're definitely not having one of those parties where nothing happens. So, of course, this is like the perfect introvert party because you can have lots of fun with your friends and you don't even have to look at anybody or leave your house or put makeup on or wash your hair. I'm not judging. Hi, Mom. That's because I started over. Nobody was asking questions, so I decided to start reading chapter 1. I'm just waiting for people to show up and listen if they want to. I see 2 people. All right, I guess I'm going to go ahead and start and hey, I'm going to go ahead and start reading, and again, if you don't want to listen right now, you want to participate. I don't know if this is one of those videos where you can like watch it and scroll through the group at the same time. Some are like that, some aren't. So if it's not, just feel free to listen to it later or not at all. That's totally up to you. But I'm... Oh, great. I get to read to you. Way to make me self-conscious. Okay. Is anybody else coming? It's not. Okay. Well, you can always have it like open in one tab. If you're on a computer, you can have it open in one tab because it's just audio and then scroll the group in the other, but don't have to. Yeah, I shared it in the event. It should be in there already. I'm sure people are just going with the other posts right now. Yeah, I know. I figured some of you guys are on the phone. Yep, you can listen in one tab and scroll in the other if you're on a desktop. That's the best offer I got. Okay. Somebody disappeared. But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and get started. AJ's fine. I had to send him away so he likes to talk and people won't be able to hear me read. Okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started and people can listen in or listen to it later. 1 second. Okay. Yes, AJ likes to talk. Okay. Chapter 1. The Compound. Swirling darkness grasps at me like ghostly fingers determined to drag me into oblivion. Up ahead, barely visible through the mist, a light swings back and forth like a pendulum. Strong hands have a pincer grip on my arms, and they're pulling me forward toward the glare. As I approach, propelled by my invisible captors, the light brightens until I can see a lone metal table standing beneath the swinging, solitary light bulb. 6 people in white lab coats and face masks stand around the table. They look up as I approach. All I can see is their eyes. Eyes which blaze bright green and violet from beneath their white hoods. The erratic light causes flickering shadows over their faces, shadows which make them seem even more mysterious and frightening. "No!" I scream and struggle against the restraining hands. "I won't do it!" There is no response, just the inexorable pull toward the table. "I don't want it. I want to stay human." One of the masked figures speaks. Nonconformity will not be tolerated. Then, one by one, the other figures take up the litany until all 6 of them chant in a synchronous monotone. Nonconformity will not be tolerated. Nonconformity will not be tolerated. No! I shriek and try to pull away, but the fingers have a grip of iron on my upper arms and I'm trapped. There is no escape. I will become an android. It is the will of the society, and the society does not allow rebellion. Next scene. I live in a world with no mirrors. Sure, if that was the worst the world had to offer, why care? After all, it's not like there are a lot of actual humans around to see me. The androids don't care what I look like. They aren't like the Haas, human minds and android bodies. AJ, shh. They're just human-shaped computers designed to raise us until we're old enough to leave our frail human bodies behind forever. They don't care about such a thing as identity or teenage vanity. 2 months. To be precise, 59 days, 17 hours, and 12 minutes. That's when it will hit midnight on the day of my 18th birthday. In the hours before dawn, I will be spirited away to be embedded in a perfect, beautiful body that will never age or suffer illness or pain. I don't know why the idea terrifies me so much. Last night, I woke in a cold sweat, my heart pounding so fast that one of the androids came running in to check on me and make sure I wasn't sick. Which is silly considering we live in a sealed compound, and unless there's something they're not telling us about germs, there's no way for contagious illnesses to reach us here. But the thought of having my mind in something made of wires and electricity and synthetic skin. I shudder and pull the gray blanket tighter around my shoulders. Out of everyone here, my best friend and I seem to be the only ones with such misgivings. Most of the other girls are eagerly looking forward to the process of leaving their human bodies behind. I suppose the thought of never getting fat or growing chin hairs is appealing to most people my age. An eternal life with makeup and hair that's always perfect, and the ability to change their look as often as they can afford. What's not to love? HA, honey, shh. I sit on the wide sill of the window that overlooks the exercise yard. Suddenly chilled, I draw my feet up onto the ledge with me and tuck the blanket around them. The yard is almost as featureless and gray as the rest of the compound, except for the lone mature tree in the center that grows out of a perfectly circular hole. They say this tree is one of the last. The society was formed to combat the rampant disease, hunger, and poverty that gripped a world in its death throes. War and pestilence reduced once green lands to dusty wasteland, and only a few plants and animals still exist. Supposedly, this venerable oak is one of a mere 5 mature trees left in the whole country. Like us, children raised by the society, there is a whole generation of trees out there being grown to help rebuild the world once they mature. A little vac-bot roams around the yard, sweeping up the few leaves that dared to fall and mar the sterile concrete. A leaf flutters down, settling on the round little bot's back, and I chuckle as it spins in frantic circles trying to escape the invisible thread. Craning my neck, I lean my head against the blue-tinged glass, trying to catch a glimpse of the sky. It's still dark, with just the faintest hint of pink staining the sliver of sky that's visible between the top of the wall and the tree's outermost limbs. I wonder what it must have been like for those generations that only ever saw a sky obscured by dust and smog. At least they got to see the whole sky, even if it was always a murky shade of brown or gray. A buzz sounds from across the room and I jump. Groaning, I hop up and pad across the cold floor my bare feet. Along the right wall stands my bed, with its white sheets and gray bedspread. I have the extra warmth throw blanket around my shoulders. There isn't even a headboard or a footboard, just a metal frame beneath the mattress. This is the same place I've spent every single night since I first came here as a toddler. In 15 years, not a single thing has changed. Along the left wall stands a shiny white desk with no drawers, just a thin top set on spindly metal legs. It holds my sketch pad and paintbrushes, the only old-fashioned things in the otherwise sleek and sterile room. I pull out the chair, which is the same shade and material as the desk. After sitting down, I dance my fingers over the holographic keyboard and look up to the screen, which commands my entire field of vision. It is built flush with the wall, and when off, becomes invisible among the rectangles of gray. Right now it's lit brightly white, displaying a society message I've seen so many times that I could almost recite it from memory. Accompanying the message is a picture of an HA android with dark hair, bright green eyes, and HA623A stamped just above her collarbone. Welcome to the society. We believe in equal opportunity and wealth for all. Of course, opportunity starts with the vessel we inhabit. If the body is weak or ill, the person will be unable to take advantage of any opportunity they are given. That is why the Society is pleased to announce the latest model in our HA Human Aspect Android line, the HA623A. HA623A is modeled to your exact specifications. We start either with a template modeled from your own physical characteristics, or you may pick from a set of pre-programmed, fully customizable templates. Once your Android meets your vision, it will go into production. Within approximately 90 days, your new body will be ready for use. As with former HA models, the HA623A is built to last. With self-regenerating nanotechnology capable of mending almost any wound, and Solcon skin that converts sunlight and bright ambient light into power, the HA623A will keep you going no matter your lifestyle. Replenish the internal fusion reactor with a glass of water. The new hydrolysis unit converts it to hydrogen fuel and you'll be good to go. No waste, just pure, clean oxygen. Fuel up and preserve the environment too. No recharge or shutdown time needed. The HA623A also contains features never before seen in our previous models. With a larger and more opaque HUD, occupants can view their Android body status, communicate with friends, or search for information via the net with greater ease than ever before. The HUD is now completely invisible to everyone except the occupant, giving you the privacy and user-friendliness you deserve. Our mind transfer process has now been streamlined, making it even more quick and comfortable, so you can get back to your busy life as soon as possible. A quick office visit is all that's needed. You will walk in fully human, with all the pains and shortcomings of the human body, and less than 1 hour later you will walk out with everything that makes you who you are, safely embedded in a body that will never age or decay. As always, the HA623A comes with financing plans for those without the upfront credits, and any citizen who has been embedded for more than 1 year may upgrade free of charge. Embedding is required for most professions and all government benefits, so don't delay. Help us create more resources for the next generation by living in a body that requires no food or ambient temperature control. The more citizens who embed, the cleaner and safer a planet we can provide for the next generation of children who are stuck in human bodies until their brains mature. As always, please send us a message or dial 1 from your HUD to reach a society representative. We are ready and waiting to help you with any questions you may have, and we are 100% staffed by Android integrated citizens. This means we've all gone through the process and can ease any worries or concerns you may have. We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. End broadcast. Good morning, Alyssa. The Haw's face appears in the top corner of the screen, and I squint at the cheerfulness in her voice. I don't look up at her, just tap the screen to enlarge the day's schedule. I don't know why I bother. It's the same as every other day. Good morning, headmistress. Why she feels it necessary to personally greet each one of us every morning, I'll never understand. It's like she takes some sort of pleasure in seeing us sleepy-eyed and with tangled hair. The more we groan and grunt at her, the cheerier she gets. So, I learned a long time ago to pretend I'm fully awake. It dampens her and makes her less irritating. This morning, however, she's undeterred. The society greets you, Alyssa, one day closer to your embedding. We are so thrilled to see such a bright young woman join our ranks. I manage a not quite grimace of a smile and nod at her. I'm thrilled as well, headmistress. I'm not, really, but I'll never tell her that. It's not like her knowledge of my feelings on the matter will make any difference. All that will happen is she'll send me to the counselor's office, and I've never felt much like spilling my guts to a shining android with a not quite human face, or being drugged into walking oblivion. Have a great day, Alyssa. Thank you, headmistress, I intone, willing her to be gone. Thankfully, she seems to have had enough fun at my expense, and her face disappears from the screen. I swipe the schedule away and rise from the chair, leaving the blanket hanging over the back of it. Shuffling to the bathroom, I strip out of my gray t-shirt and sweatpants and discard them on the floor before stepping into the glass-walled shower. I hear a whir behind me, but don't turn to look. It's only the dispensing slot spitting the day's uniform out onto the counter that's the exact same shade as the desk in my bedroom. A shallow sink overhung by chrome fixtures marks the exact center of the counter's length. Above it is a rectangle the size of my bedroom screen, which emits a soft yellow glow. Occupying the space between the shower's end and the counter is a gray-tiled bench. After a shower just long enough that I won't get a poor hygiene demerit, I step out onto the rough gray tiles and pull down a towel from the basket over the toilet. Then I tug on the white button-up blouse and the gray skirt. The skirt's heavy folds fall to my ankles, and my feet are covered by the practical but ugly gray slippers that sat on top of the pile. I drag my fingers through my hair and braid it. The mass falls nearly to my waist when it's wet. The closest I can come to describing the color is that yellowish brown of damp sand. Not that I've ever seen sand anywhere but in my school videos. It's one of the few ways that they let us express ourselves, and I prefer the mess of it to the sleek, boyish styles most of the Haws wear. I suppose androgyny makes sense in a society without biological gender or sex, but I'm still human and I'm still female. They haven't fully trained the teenage humanity out of me, no matter how hard they try to regiment and control me. I may not know what my face looks like, besides some blurry reflections in windows, but my hair makes me feel pretty, and I'll fight to keep it as long as I possibly can. Maybe I won't care anymore when I'm in an android body. One can only hope. Clean and presentable, I drop the towel on the floor where the clean bots will pick it up later. I walk out of the bathroom, turning and striding through the austere bedroom, until my steps bring me right up to the door which leads to the corridor. The frosted glass door hums and hisses aside, sliding into the wall. I step out into the hallway, as do the girls on either side of me. We nod to each other, then we all turn to our left and walk down the great concrete hallway toward the mess hall. There are a half-dozen of us total in Compound 6. We are part of the first generation that has never known a time before the Haws, the human aspect androids. 23 years ago, the HA-600 was created. Why did they start at 600? I don't know, and nobody will tell me. I have a sneaking suspicion that it took 599 failures before they had a success, which further detracts from my confidence in the entire program. Dark-skinned, slant-eyed Lene smiles at me and follows in the step beside me. She's my only real friend in this place. Even so, there's always a distance between us, a chasm that cannot be crossed, when even confidential conversations are all heard and recorded by androids. I don't know her secrets, and she doesn't know mine. We are merely two people who are on better terms with each other than with the rest of the girls here. She's subdued these days, almost as colorless as our surroundings. I miss the days when she was bubbly and vivacious and not medicated into numbness. Hey, her quiet voice doesn't carry across the corridor that echoes with our footsteps. You okay? I heard the android go by last night. I rub my hand wearily over my face. Yeah, it was just a bad dream. She links her arm with mine as we walk around the wide curve in the corridor. Despite the similarity in our age, she is several inches shorter than I. We emerge into the vast room where we take our meals. Every time I see this place, I have the unnerving feeling that it was meant for hundreds of people, not a measly half dozen. Gently curving white beams soar above our heads, panes of frosted glass between them. They culminate in a peak from which hangs the giant industrial chandelier that lights the room in the evenings. Along the wall to our right is the bank of little wall niches at waist height that hold our food trays. The food is always waiting for us when we arrive, with no indication of where it comes from. There are at least 20 of the niches in a line from the edge of our corridor to the spot next to the hall that leads to the compound reception area. Only 6 of them, the closest to where we enter the room, are ever lit. In the very center of the room, beneath the peak, stands a single rectangular table. I think back to my childhood when there were several dozen of us here, all of varying ages. Sweet Jennifer, who always stood up for me. Hateful Keisha, who thought tripping the little ones was hilarious. They're all gone now, each one leaving when they turned 18. And for nearly 5 years now there have been no newcomers. Many left earlier when bad behavior or emotional instability made them candidates for reprogramming, and they never returned. Does this mean there are no more? Are there no more children being born now that the society is mostly androids? Or are they being raised elsewhere? Whatever the reason, all I get is long-suffering sighs or stubborn silence when I ask. Lene lets go of my arm as we remove our trays from the niches set underneath the little screens displaying our names. I grumble under my breath and shoot a dirty look at the camera I know is set somewhere in the wall above the niches. Eggs again? And not even real eggs. What's the point of feeding us something that tastes bad when the food factories can put any nutrients in any food and there's no nutritional reason to need them at all? I shuffle after Lene and the other girls toward the table, then swing my leg over the bench and set my tray down on the rough white surface. There are 3 of us to a side. Me, ebony-skinned Lakasha, and the white-skinned, platinum-haired Shauna are faced by Lene and the Hispanic twins who just go by the names Mo and Joe. The 6 of us are the only fully human people we ever see. Beyond us, the compound is run and staffed by various non-humanoid androids, and then the Haas and the Nandroids. The only males I've ever seen are Haas. I often wonder what a human-bodied boy would look like, but outside of the few I've seen on a screen, I suspect I'll never know. After I leave, unless I come to work in a compound, all I will see is other Haas. Shh. And since gender is interchangeable with Haas, there's no knowing who any of them were before being embedded. As I shove my eggs and oatmeal into my mouth, I stare off into the distance while the other girls chatter. I watch with unfocused eyes as a cleanbot polishes a spot of gray floor on the opposite end of the room. Did you see that guy in history yesterday? Shauna isn't talking to me, so I continue watching the bot. Lakasha shudders. Yeah, hideous. I can't believe people left the house looking like that. I focus on the 2 girls. I know who they're referring to. We've been studying World War II, and one of the soldiers in the ancient video was, Well, the charitable descriptor would be plain. With a heavy brow and a perpetual sneer, his face was enough to make some girls cringe in disgust, if those around the table were any indication. Lene was the only one who didn't nod in agreement. That's not kind. Shauna frowns at me. What? Surely they had ways even back then. I'm starting to think I'm the only one who even pays attention to what we're taught. I mean, they were all starving and they had to use alternate metals to make their currency because copper was needed for bullets, but sure, I'm sure they had the time and the resources to make facial alterations. Presenting a good face to the world is important. Lakasha flips her hair over her shoulder. I gape at the four of them in shock. Crying gets us medicated, but this kind of talk is fine? I'd think staying alive was more of a priority than looking nice. All faces look kind of the same when they're crushed and covered in blood. When the other girls gasp in horror, I almost regret the graphic nature of my comment. Almost. They deserved it, though. I turn my attention to my plate and spear some eggs on my fork. Presentation is important, Alyssa. They continue in this vein for a while, but I ignore them. Lene catches my eyes and gives me the tiniest of smiles. At least one person gets me. At least we aren't all budding sociopaths who think appearances are more important than food and shelter. When the bell rings, we all rise from the bench in unison and take our trays back to our respective niches. My throat feels tight from forcing down the tasteless oatmeal through the tension created by the conversation, but leaving food on my plate isn't worth the forced trip to the infirmary. If only I could get the androids to understand that actual human beings have daily variations in things such as appetite and energy levels. But no, they're all far too removed from the sensations of human life to remember what it feels like to be at the mercy of an imperfect body. My tray slides onto its little shelf, and I turn to follow the rest of the girls as they walk to the opposite end of the mess hall. AJ, stop. We pass underneath the arch and step into the relatively dim light of another featureless corridor. This one curves to the left, and we are blessed with a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows that allow bright sunlight to spill onto the floor and give us a passing view of the exercise yard. The little vac-bot is still busily collecting the orange-tinted leaves that flutter to the ground. They are the first and the only hints of autumn we ever see inside the compound. Soon we will wake up each morning to frost-rimmed glass and eventually a blanket of snow and ice. Upon reaching the classrooms, I return Lene's wave and stand in front of the frosted glass door with my name on it. When it hisses aside, I step into the tiny room with the chair and desk identical to those in my bedroom and the featureless white wall. Sliding into the chair, I pick up the stylus on the desk and rock the chair back on two legs while I wait for the screen to light up. The room is empty, but for the chair, desk, and screen. After a moment, a musical hum emanates from the wall, and a rectangle of it brightens. Good morning, Alyssa. The bright female voice sounds annoyingly familiar to that of the headmistress. I repeat the expected greeting. Good morning, teacher. Unlike most of the robots and androids here, teacher has no body. She's AI in its purest form, a disembodied voice coming from a screen. There's a rumor among the girls that she used to be human and had her consciousness uploaded to the teaching system rather than take on an android body. I don't know what to believe. All I know is that such a fate sounds like my own personal version of hell. Did you sleep well? I tapped the stylus against the desk's top impatiently. Well enough, thank you. Good. The text of my math lesson sprawls across the screen. I stare at it for a moment until the algorithms resolve into something that makes sense to my tired brain. Please begin. Speak up if you have any questions. For the next hour, I scribble out the equations on the desktop, then type in the answers on the keyboard once I come to my conclusions. When the hour's up, the screen hums and displays the pages of my English work. I ask teacher when I have questions, but mostly I work in silence. After English comes history. I'm allowed a 10-minute break to go to the bathroom across the hall and get a drink. When the flickering footage of World War II lights up the screen, I find myself remembering the conversation at breakfast. The ugly man from yesterday doesn't make a reappearance. I almost wish he would. I wish Shauna, Lakasha, and the twins could be faced with the dying screams of a man they decided to look down on simply because of his appearance. Maybe something would get through to them, make them realize how cold-hearted they were being. Or maybe they're just too sheltered by their life of comfort and privilege to care. At noon, the screens turn off and we are released for a half hour to eat lunch. Yeah, I silently pick at the lettuce on my fake turkey sandwich. I'm just not hungry today. The remnants of my nightmare plague me, fragments of dream sequences my mind can barely remember. The sensation puts me on edge and steals away my appetite. The four girls ignore me, which is fine with me. Their callous lack of concern for a real human life baffles me. It's like they see him as nothing more than pixels on a screen, rather than the very real and visceral part of history that he is. Maybe that's it. Maybe they don't have my curse of imagination and they're content to exist in their own world without caring what goes on outside it. After lunch, we return to our classrooms for 2 more classes. Then we're released to the exercise yard where we spend 2 hours either walking in circles or following an android as she teaches us a very awkward approximation of a discipline I'm told was once called yoga. Thin mats are spread on the ground, each one a different shade of blue. The mats and the tree are the most colorful things in our surroundings now that the sun has disappeared behind sullen clouds. I've got to admit, watching a gangly metal body demonstrate downward dog is funny enough that I'm glad it can't see my inability to keep a straight face. Doesn't look like any dog I've ever seen. When Lene catches my eye, she grins at me in a rare moment of shared mirth. I watch sadly as her smile soon disappears and her face returns to that blank expression she usually wears. Once outside time is finished, we have a tasteless dinner, then a couple hours of free time. We're allowed to spend this in the mess hall, the yard, or our bedrooms. This evening, I choose to fetch my drawing supplies from my room, and I retreat to the yard, which is now empty except for the tree, and the spastic little vagbot that is determined to never let a leaf meet the ground for more than a moment. Eschewing the concrete benches, I pick a spot along the wall and slide down to sit on the cold floor with my back against the wall. My throw blanket is wrapped around my shoulders, and I prop my sketch pad on my drawn-up knees. Leaning my head back against the wall, I close my eyes and inhale the crisp air until my lungs ache. When I can't possibly hold any more, I let it out in a rush and open my eyes to stare at the tree. I could sketch this tree by heart after so many years, but I've found that every new angle brings to light some detail I've missed before. As the daylight fades, little glowing lights turn on around the tree's base and along the top of the walls, until the scene looks almost magical. The leaves are outlined in the pink and orange glow of the sunset and lit from below by the white glow. The clouds have dissipated into wisps, rendered in molten colors by the fading light. Putting pencil to paper, I sketch the way the tree's branches stretch away from the top of the trunk. I draw the interlacing lines, the random knobs, the paths that thin into twigs no wider than the tip of my pencil. As I glance between my sketch pad and the tree, I have this intense wish to see beyond the top of the compound walls, to sketch a tree different than this one, or a mountain range like the ones I see in school. My fingers ache to touch growing things, to feel the warmth and growth of life rather than this constant coldness of concrete and metal. I know none of these things exist out there, but my heart insists they must, even as my brain knows all I would find is emptiness and dead earth. I've seen the pictures in the movies of desolate land, the twisting bones of trees that reach toward the sky like desperate fingers. Sometimes they show us the vistas side by side, green and lush next to barren and dead. They say the world is colder now that there are fewer trees and plants to produce carbon dioxide. They tell us the weather is more volatile, with snowier winters and summers plagued by tornadoes and hurricanes. I wouldn't know. This is the only world I've ever known. When the bedtime bell sounds, I gather up my things and make my way back to my room. On the way there, all I find is empty corridors and a mess hall that echoes back the scuffing of my slippers on the shining floor. I pass beneath the arch and into the hallway that leads to the sleeping quarters. A couple moments later, I stand at my door, which hisses aside to admit me. Setting the sketch pad on the desk, I strip out of my uniform and toss it in a heap in the corner before pulling on the soft shirt and sweatpants, which are neatly folded at the edge of the bed. The room has been cleaned to spotlessness since I left this morning. Everything I left messy is gone or put back in its place. There isn't a wrinkle or a smudge in sight. Computer, play bedtime music. The screen fills with dim light and the gentle strains of instrumental music flow through the air. Pulling the bedspread back, I climb between the sheets and spread the throw blanket over the top. I lay on my back and stare at the ceiling, waiting for sleep to provide the dividing line between 2 days no different than the other hundreds which came before them. Despite my misgivings, I can't help a sense of longing for the day when I'll get to see something beyond these gray walls.
Yeah.
The song I've heard 1,000 times before tugs me toward oblivion with the strains of soothing cello and flutes.
Yeah.
The alarm and the sun wake me. So begins yet another day in the compound. I go to breakfast, then school. After school and dinner, the Nandroids ask us to do a half-hour jog around the exercise yard. I pick up the running shoes that have been set on a bench in the yard, putting my everyday ones beneath it. Mo and Joe laugh over something, and Lakasha complains about having to run in a skirt. On this subject, I can't blame her. For a set of androids which have so much knowledge of how to raise children, there sure are some odd gaps in their awareness of humanity. But there's no use complaining to an android. It's more likely to lose me free time than it is to get us permission to change into clothes more suited for exercise. For a third of an hour, we settle into a rhythm of pounding shoes and panting breaths as we run in a group around the yard. Despite her whining about the skirt, or perhaps because of it, Lakasha actually seems to feel she has to be better than the rest of us and sets off at a sprint. She actually gets away with it until she runs past Joe a little too fast, and the short, stocky girl puts a foot out at just the wrong angle, sending them both tumbling to the ground. Lene rolls her eyes when she knows I'm looking at her, and the two of us keep running while Joe, Lakasha, and an android have a disagreement over who's at fault. I run with my friend, our feet hitting the ground in unison, our strides match despite the difference in our heights. Even when the 20 minutes is up and Lene waves at me, then goes inside to shower, I keep running. I run until my lungs ache and the first of the lights come on beneath the tree. When I collapse on a bench and remove the running shoes, a vacbot zooms out from underneath it, chittering at me madly before running out to start picking up the leaves on the pavement. I laugh. "I'm sorry," I call after it, even though I know it won't reply.
Yeah.
The irritated beeping is all the response I'm going to get. After I put my normal shoes back on and set the white running ones on the bench, I stand and head back to my room just as the buzzer sounds to signal the end of free time. The door from the yard opens into the mess hall near the corridor, which would lead me to the schoolrooms. I head right and walk through the empty room. The arch of the corridor passes over my head, plunging me into semi-darkness. The soles of my shoes hitting the floor are the only sound. The darkness and silence is eerie. I almost wish there was some other sound, even if it had to be the voices of the other girls chattering. They must have all gone to their rooms already. I expect Lakasha has earned herself a removal of free time privileges, and possibly Joe as well. It all depends on whether the Nandroid's algorithms were able to ascertain who was at fault. Usually they're just confused by arguments and end up issuing demerits or punishments to everyone involved. Alyssa. Drawing in a deep breath, I spin around. Hello?
Yes?
A trickle of fear snakes down my spine, though I quickly squash it.
Yeah.
We're safe here, don't be ridiculous. Yet, despite looking all around me, both up and down the empty corridor, I can't see anyone. All I can see is the soft white glow of the lights along the base of the walls. After a few moments, during which the sound does not repeat, I shake off my trepidation and continue walking toward my room. Fear drives me to break into a trot until I find myself impatiently waiting for my door to open. Once I'm inside, I order the lights to full strength and drop my uniform in the corner before indulging in the day's second shower. You were hearing things, Alyssa. It was nothing, just an overactive imagination. As the hot water beats on my tense shoulder... Whoa, H.A., honey. Sorry, 1 second. H.A. Okay. You were hearing things, Alyssa. It was nothing, just an overactive imagination. As the hot water beats on my tense shoulders and the soap bubbles swirl down the drain, I almost manage to convince myself I just imagined that bodiless voice which hissed my name in the corridor. Almost. Say bye.
Bye. It's Baba.